And welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast of Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who has never lost to Zach Wilson. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I have not lost to Zach Wilson. I am a member of the Patriots, but I haven't lost to Zach Wilson, I don't think. I don't remember a game losing to Zach Wilson. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure every single time he's played the Patriots, it's been absolutely a disaster for him.
Yeah. He almost won one last year, but we won on a game-winning punt return.
That's right. Yeah, that was sort of bookend. Speaking of game-winning punt returns, we had a crazy Monday Night Football game, which we're going to talk about. We're then going to get into our previews for everything. Also, sorry we're a few minutes late here. It was an issue with sending the invite email over and stuff. We're here now. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we're locked in, ready to do this. I'm going to have a better picks week this week for sure.
Yeah, it was already off to a tough start, Kyle. But before we get into that, let's get into the Monday Night Football game. I mean, this was, honestly, there's kind of two things we have to talk about, right? Like it's almost like two separate things. There's the game itself, but first, just the really devastating news that Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles right away. And this is one of those weird things where it's like, if you love Aaron Rodgers, you're obviously upset. If you hate Aaron Rodgers, you're upset because you wanted to root against him all year. And if you're indifferent, you're still upset because it's such a unique story. And obviously, just someone dealing with an injury sucks in its own right. That's just one of the more frustrating things to happen I can think of in a long time.
It's so bizarre because it's like, there's so much anticipation to this Jet season. We talked about it in our preview show. Like, when is the last time the Jets had real Super Bowl expectations or Super Bowl hopes, really? Like, those Rex Ryan years, they had pretty good teams, but I don't think anyone was talking about the Jets as a Super Bowl team with Mark Sanchez. At least not that I remember. There's probably some delusional Jets fans out there.
They didn't make back-to-back conference championships.
Yeah,
I agree.
Good. Yeah, there was a ceiling on
going into the season, they weren't that high expectations.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it ends in 4 plays. Like, I just can't remember. Like, the only parallel I could make to this was Kevin Durant coming back from injury in the finals and getting hurt early in that game. But even then, Durant was hurt coming back to that game. Like, we expected this was a possibility, him rushing back from injury. This Rodgers thing is, all of a sudden immediately, like the 4th play of the game, he's down, and it is crazy. It's unfortunate how this how that went down and kind of derailed the season before it starts.
Yeah, it's almost things like, what do you even say about it? Like, it's just one of those things. It's one of the more unbelievable things that I can think of. Is this the most devastating injury of all time? Because you bring up the Durant one, but that was already I think it would have to be one like that would top it, of where it's like you had a chance to win a championship and then an injury happens and that cost it. But even the Durant, they won the game that day, and then they and they were still down in the series when it happened. I can't think of a more devastating one.
I mean, I think it also has to do with the fan base too, and just what this fan base is, and kind of this team hasn't won in a while. Not doing it to rub it in. It's just true. It hasn't won in a while. I could bring up Brady in 2008, but at the same time,
they went to the Super Bowl prior, which I guess is part of it. But yeah, I don't know. And you still knew you had another decade of Brady after.
I don't know about a decade, but he ended up playing a little longer than we expected, right? So,
sure, but you knew you had a good chunk of years after, at least.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just that was a weird one. Those are, it's just weird because that was a similar thing where it's like, okay, well, the season's over. Like, I don't even know what to do the rest of the year.
Right.
This kind of feels like that unless they decide to go out and make a trade, which I don't even know if it's possible.
It was the weirdest thing because that happened. I made some videos talking about it, and then I said, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to go, watch a movie or something. This game is over. Just, checking the score a little bit. And it's like, oh, the Jets are kind of hanging around. I guess I'll turn the game back on. I'll see what's happening here. Jets are still hanging around. Josh Allen throws another interception. All of a sudden, the Jets come back and they tie the game with a play that Zach Wilson basically just threw the ball and said, here, please, Buffalo, here, Tre'Davious White, please intercept this pass. And Garrett Wilson said, no, I will be taking that. I'll get a touchdown here instead. And I mean, this was such a disaster by both quarterbacks. Somehow Aaron Rodgers was still the best quarterback to play in this game. I mean, it was a mess all around. And, I don't even, this in some ways makes it even worse for the Jets, the fact that they come back and win this game. But somehow, some way, the Jets win this one.
Yeah, they do manage to win this one. 10 points in the fourth quarter, led by your mother's favorite quarterback. That's Zach Wilson, bringing the boys back. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he played well, but he managed to get the job done against all odds. And I guess the thing is, like, this is the part where you got to be frustrated as a Jets fan, right? Like, this defense showed just how nasty it is once again. It's going to be one of the best defenses in football again, and you scrap by with the win because your quarterback's 14-21 for a $140 and touchdown to pick. And even then, I think the numbers are even worse than those numbers, or the eye test is worse than what those numbers suggested.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you were watching the Manning cast at all, but it was incredible. Peyton Manning, not a Zach Wilson guy. He was saying during parts of it that Zach Wilson should not throw more than 3 times in the game. Basically, every time Zach Wilson dropped back to pass, Peyton Manning was, just getting just immediately. I don't mean like after the throw was made, just immediately it was like, oh, what are we doing here? Peyton Manning in general, he had a rough. He was frustrated. He had a rough night on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. I can't imagine a lot of quarterbacks are a fan of Zach Wilson's game. Got to be honest, but Peyton Manning especially.
Opposing quarterbacks, maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So yeah, I mean, and then that's kind of burying the lead here too. He was the second best quarterback of the night because Josh Allen also played.
Yeah,
and Josh Allen was a disaster in this game, and you're not going to win a lot of football games when Josh Allen's worse than Zach Wilson. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that makes it tough. I mean, the whole thing about the Bills is kind of they all like there's flaws on this roster, but they have a superstar quarterback. He just kind of melted down. It was just such a weird performance. Like we're getting obviously some overreactions with him. Probably the most overreactions. I mean, a very highly upvoted comment on my video, which was entitled "Zach Wilson Sucked." It was someone saying like that they think this is going to be the beginning and end for Josh Allen's career. People are giving some hot takes. But, I mean, just the performance, it was a disaster. I mean, he was thrown in a double coverage when he didn't have to. He was throwing it right to safeties. He fumbled the snap and then, like, in a panic, picked it up. And I'm not even sure if he was supposed to run with the ball. He was like he just ran to his own lineman after doing that and then fumbled it again. I don't know. He panicked.
I thought it was atrocious. It was despicable. Yeah. And, as someone who has also said on this podcast with you that Josh Allen at his best can be the best quarterback in football. Like at his best, he's the one quarterback in the league who could probably challenge Mahomes as far as just overall talent.
On his best day, yeah.
On his best day. He still has that kind of 15% of dumbass in him. And that's just kind of what kills him all the time. Now, as a Bills rival, I may have chuckled at a few Josh Allen memes and made a few Josh Allen is Carson Wentz memes myself. But as someone who's, trying to analyze the game, I don't really know what to make of it because, like, you could say it's only week 1. We gave Joe Burrow a pass week 1. We gave a lot of quarterbacks a pass week 1. Joe Burrow also didn't practice for a month, so that played a big part. But anyway, we gave a lot of quarterbacks past week 1. These guys don't play a lot of preseason or hardly no preseason at all. It's basically just a practice game at this point. But the turnovers are now an issue. Like this is something that's been going for over a year now. This is continuing
for his whole career.
Year. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it seemed like for a year or so there that it was a little less, but now it seems like it's just bad again. Like you can't cough up the football 4 times and expect to win. I mean, even if he's insanely talented for the rest of the game, which he wasn't in this game, but, he's had those moments. You can't cough up the football 4 times and expect to win a lot of games.
Yeah, and I thought he still did have his flashes in this game as well, just not enough of them, obviously. Usually the good outweighs the bad. This is not one of those examples. One narrative that I think I just don't agree with is the whole, like, Brian Dable was all that made Josh Allen good. And I thought Josh Allen had his most complete season last year as a player. Like, I know statistically 2020 was his best year, but I thought that, teams kind of figured out, didn't really know how to play him quite yet that year, and that's kind of what inflated some of those numbers. I thought his best season was last year without Dable. Obviously, Dable's great; he's a really good coach and helps out Josh Allen. But I don't know. I just think this is who Allen is. He's a volatile player. I tweeted this out and I stand by it. Josh Allen was bad on week 1. Joe Burrow was bad on week 1. I'd still take them over anybody not named Patrick Mahomes.
I think I agree with you. Did you see some of the cut ups of Trevor Lawrence? Some of his throws in that Indianapolis game?
Yeah. He had some good throws.
Ridiculous. I don't know. He may be in that conversation sooner than we think. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, I thought it was good. No, I fully agree. Listen, we could talk about this game all day, but we should move on.
Hey, kudos to the Jets, though. They do deserve a lot of credit. Your guy who's supposed to be, he's talked about the savior all offseason. He goes down 4 plays into the game. Your team grinds out a victory. That's big time stuff. One more thing I want to ask you about this game, then we'll move on. Okay. If I were to give you a scenario, because people are saying, are the Jets still contenders? I don't think they are anymore, but let's play this scenario. What's more likely to happen? The Jets make the playoffs or the Bills suck?
I think the Jets make the playoffs. I don't think that that's out of the question because, again, who knows which teams are going to, underperform still in the year. And I don't know. Maybe they let's see if they add Joe Flacco and make it happen. I don't know. The Jameis Winston. I also, this is, kind of going on a tangent here. But, I thought of what about call up the Titans for Ryan Tannehill or the Vikings for Kirk Cousins? Guys who are under last year to the way you make it work would have to be we'll give you a draft pick and you're taking the entire salary for this year. But I don't know if it's week 4 or 5, you're 2-2 as the Jets and the Titans are 0-4. Maybe that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good one because then you obviously have next year where maybe Rodgers comes back, so you don't have to worry about quarterback. Because I was thinking do they call about Kyler? But obviously that creates a future problem with the salaries and all that you have to figure out. But that's someone you could call too. I mean, there's a few options out there. I just don't know. Are you going to spend more capital on another quarterback? I don't know.
Right. And it might be worth it to just have Zach Wilson, get it into try because you have your first round pick again this year. That's a benefit. So the one silver lining. So maybe tank and get a decent draft pick. And it is worth mentioning too. We're spending forever on this game, but we should. It's a huge game. Robert Saleh said after the game that Aaron Rodgers, he believes Aaron Rodgers will be back next year. So that who knows what we're going to see. But I think at this point, if you're the Jets, you do have to operate under the assumption you're going to have elite quarterback play next year. And if it doesn't work out, then you're screwed anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this week. Kyle, a rough week. 7 total points for you added to your score. The maximum amount you can get in a week is 9. So not your best week.
Listen, week 1 is always the hardest. We adjust. We go forward. I'm feeling good. This is a perfect week.
Okay, perfect week coming up. You know what? If you get the perfect week, I don't know if we've ever made this official. I think if you get a perfect week, you should get a point deducted from your score.
All right, fine. Deal. Even better.
And we'll never have to do this because we're never going to get a perfect week. But Kyle, so you give me a game. That's how this works. Where are we starting off with?
Man, I've got a couple games at the top of my list here. I think this game's disgusting. I don't want to watch it. I'm not going to enjoy either of these teams. I'm not going to enjoy talking about either of these teams this season, I think. Just disgusting effort. Let's go Washington at Denver.
Okay, Washington. This one was I have a couple games ahead of this one. This is actually 4th on my list, so I feel okay about picking it here. Yeah, still hard to say how I feel about either of these teams. I'm going to pick Denver to win. I don't know. Washington it's weird because I feel like from Washington's perspective, on one hand, they didn't even cover against Arizona. That's not good. You want to cover that game. At the same time, there was Sam Howell basically said, here's 7 points on the table. Here you go, Washington. So that kind of, if that doesn't happen, maybe you feel a little better about them. I thought Sam Howell actually looked all right in that game outside of a couple mistakes. Took too many sacks, but I thought he looked okay. Also, Denver had one of the weirdest stat lines I've ever seen. because like we were talking about the game last week. It's like, yeah, Russell Wilson looked all right, but only 16 points. I didn't realize they only had 6 drives in that game. So like points per drive was actually pretty good for Denver. It was like 2.6. Like that's like usually like a top like 12 offense in the league. It was just that they didn't have any drives.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a fast-paced game, so I guess that, you get a little bit of leeway for that, but I don't know, man. Like, there's just no explosives, and I don't trust that. I agree with you. I don't think that Washington-Arizona game was really that close, outside of Arizona's defensive line playing pretty well. Like, Arizona grinded a little bit, but I felt like Washington was the better team the whole time.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Howell made a few mistakes. I guess the interesting, like, it just, how can they get McLaurin going against this defense? I think is a big thing. The secondary still is very good. Should have a good day, but if McLaurin maybe could get going against Surtain, that gives Washington a good chance.
Yeah, I think Washington absolutely has a chance to win this one. Again, we still don't know what we're getting from Russell Wilson. I just feel like, I don't know, if Denver loses this game, do we just pack it up and we say, okay, that's like, let's just, we screwed up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, if they lose, they're 0-2 at home against two teams we kind of viewed as bottom half of the league.
Yeah. At that point, it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of questions, a lot of meetings after that. So yeah, I mean, I don't trust that at all. I don't trust either of these teams is the problem. I just don't think
Right.
there's going to be enough big plays for either teams. This game's coming down to one possession, no matter what. This is going to be like 20-14 in the final possession of the game. It just depends on who's winning. That's my opinion on this game.
Yeah, I could see it. For sure. This does feel like one of those at red zone. You're like, you don't watch all game, but then like at red zone, like that's the one you're tuning into at the end because it's close.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the last game on because for some reason it just took forever. And all of a sudden it's like 2.5 minutes left. All the other afternoon games are on. It's like, oh, okay. I guess I'll see the end of this.
Yeah, exactly. Also, DG in the chat put up. They tried an onside kick in the beginning. Yeah, Sean Payton. Really playing the hits in week 1 for Denver.
Yeah. Hey, I like it. Be aggressive. Go for it.
It was the wrong call in the Super Bowl, and it worked out. It was never a good decision.
You don't like it?
No, not a fan.
Yeah.
Worked out.
Yeah, it did work out.
Peyton Manning choked that game. The Saints shouldn't have any Super Bowls. The Washington versus
chokes a lot, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Washington, Denver. Come on, Peyton. All you had to do, just don't throw it to Tracy Porter. The Washington at Denver. That's the game we're talking about. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I want to see the Denver. I guess I want to see Howell against an actual defense. I thought he looked good, but like to me, this is the real test for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely more of a challenge, and I guess, you could play two sides of this coin. Did Arizona's defensive line play well, or is Washington's offensive line bad?
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, so which side of that's going to be true? Because, like, I'm not, like, overly high on this Denver defensive line, but it's better than what we think Arizona's is.
I also think a big part of it was Howell. I think Howell made some issues worse.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, yeah, I mean, if he's holding the ball too long, if he's, causing some problems back there, then yeah, I mean, I think this Denver defense could eat him up. But I mean, they have to get Terry going. I think that's a big thing because they just had no like sort of, big plays in this offense, which it feels like shouldn't happen because they have a lot of good receivers.
Yeah. It should be an interesting one. Let's move on. Why don't we? I'm gonna give you a game. I'm going with a game where it is not necessarily between two good teams, but you know what? A fascinating one. One I'm interested in. The Colts playing the Texans, 2 rookie quarterbacks. One of them is going to get their first win, barring a tie. It's the AFC South. Ties are likely, but Colts Texans. Where are you going?
I'm going to stick with my guns here, and I'm going to pick Indianapolis to win this one. I think it's going to be close. I was impressed with that Texans secondary. I think there's some real stuff there. They've invested a lot in it. There's a lot of young pieces. D'Amico Ryans is obviously a very good defensive coach, so that adds another part to it. So I might buy that this Texans defense. I don't know. Could this Texans defense perform at a top 20 level, instead of like a bottom 5? I think that's possible maybe this season. So that might be a little bit of something to go off of. The problem is that secondary I like does not matter against the Indianapolis Colts because they don't have that vertical passing game. So I'll take Anthony Richardson's legs, seeming how he's not in the injury report, so it seems like he's going to play. I was impressed enough with his legs and what he can do with that game. As long as Zach Moss is there, because that Deion Jackson performance was not it. I feel pretty good about Indianapolis winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, they do still throw the ball to some. It's not like they're running the ball. They're not a Navy out there. There still are some, passes, and Michael Pittman had an interesting day. So yeah, I don't know what to make, because that was a disappointment for Baltimore, which we'll get to. Is receivers weren't getting open as much, but maybe that was Houston. Although it was a weird game, because I feel like one out of every 3 passes there was just a Raven with no Houston player within 10 yards of him. It seemed like Houston for the most part did well in man, but once they tried to play zone, didn't work out too well. So interested there, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird because Richardson seemingly is he had the best week 1. I thought. I didn't think Stroud was bad either. I thought that actually all the young quarterbacks had their rookie mistakes and also showed why they were drafted in week 1. So I don't know. Does anyone care who wins this game? If you're a fan, you're just rooting for your quarterback to look good, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, probably. Texans fans would probably like to see a few wins in their lifetimes. So
sure. I mean, you'd like to see a win, sure, but I think that you'd obviously, this goes without saying, but you'd rather see your quarterback have a passer rating of 100 and lose than to have a passer rating of 70 and win.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Richardson had the splash plays, but I think Stroud showed kind of the ability to work off script that we had talked about. He hadn't shown a lot in college because he didn't have to. And he showed a bit of that again in week 1 that I was impressed with. I think the big problem, going against a John Harbaugh defense in week 1 is not easy. And I thought he did pretty well, like you said. And he also doesn't have the receiver talent to help him in that situation, which makes it even more difficult. But I thought he did pretty well. I agree with you there. But yeah, Richardson's going to have 10 plays a game where you say, oh, wow. And then Richardson's going to have 10 plays a game where you're like, oh, my God, this could be a disaster. So as long as they can minimize those disaster plays, Colts have a good chance of staying competitive in a lot of these games like they did in week 1. I don't know if they're going to win a lot of those games, but yeah, I just think there's enough juice there. Plus, I just like the receivers more. I like their skill more. I think that's just too much for Texans to overcome still.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna pick Indianapolis as well. Not that my pick matters for the purpose of the scorecard, but I think I agree. But I don't know. It's interesting game. Maybe we get a big Dameon Pierce performance here. I just want to see what's going on with the running backs for the Colts. So what happened? Was that just one week 1 type thing? You think this would be a pretty easy situation to run the ball effectively on?
You would think so, but now I guess maybe Zach Moss is back, so that helps a little bit. That was your backup running back option. I don't know, man. They need Jonathan Taylor. That's what they need.
Yeah.
And they need their whoever does start at running back can't fumble the ball twice. That's another thing.
Right. Yeah. It should. It'll be an interesting game, regardless of what happens. Let's move on. Kyle, give me.
By the way, I gotta ask real quick. Pepsi in the chat. So first it was Bud Light, now it's Pepsi. Just the drink aficionados are after you.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta just start, putting tape on my whatever I'm drinking. Whatever. Pepsi it was the cheaper option. Okay, I prefer Coke as well. All right, we all prefer Coke to Pepsi, but if sometimes it's on sale at Walmart, what am I gonna do? Spend more money for Coke?
Yeah, you can end riots with Pepsi though, so that's good.
Yeah, I don't know. That's yes. Yeah, I don't know. People love to talk about the Bud Light thing was just baffling. How many comments? It was all over the comment section. People are very fired up.
We need to get you the beer hat with the Bud Light beer cans and the Bud Light helmet there, just drinking that as you go.
Yeah. No. Well, and also I don't know. Then people brought up the Bud Light controversy, the political controversy. I sort of thought, I didn't think people were like that was still a thing we even needed to touch on. I thought we were just talking about the flavor. Craziness going on.
I don't know. Let's keep it moving though.
Yes.
Chargers, Titans. Who do you got?
Sorry, laughing at some of the comments. Chargers, Titans. Oh wow, I had this one much lower on my list. I am picking the Chargers.
Okay.
This
we got a fight here. All right, let's talk.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Titans are frisky. Obviously, we all know that. But I don't know. I mean, we saw what the Chargers offense just did. Yes, going up against a better defense with the Titans, but like, I don't know. I think we always talk about the teams with the better passing attacks are the ones that typically win versus the teams with the better rushing offenses. Tennessee had a rough offense, and yes, it was New Orleans, sure, but like that looked really tough for Tennessee week 1. I thought the Chargers offense looked great. Their defense did not look great. I know, but I'll take basically Tennessee had a rough offense and a good defense. Chargers, rough defense, good offense. I'll take the good offense over the good defense.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna push back on this because I got Tennessee winning at home, and I think it's a bad matchup. I just do. Despite that game not going the way they wanted, Tennessee still almost rushed for 5 yards per carry. I know they did well against Miami, but I think Tennessee is a different ball game, man. I don't think they're stopping this team running the ball. I just don't. I'm never going to buy into this Chargers run defense being better. I know the guys and the talent that they have at the line of scrimmage. I'm never buying into it. You're not talking me into Sebastian Joseph Day, so don't bring it into the comments. Tennessee is going to beat this team up, and I think that's how Tennessee is going to win this game. So I think Tennessee is going to out-physical the Chargers, and I think Tennessee is going to win this game that way.
I can see it. I think that one thing is we talked all off season. This Titans offensive line. Look at how bad this Titans offensive line is. Let me read off the placement of where each of their players graded week 1. So for center, 16th, guards 6th and 9th, tackles 43rd and 21st. Those are out of usually around 60. Only one had like a below average grade. It's how did the Titans do this?
I don't know, man. They just keep doing it every time. They are Vrabel coaches them well, I guess. He hires a good staff. That this team has its identity. They know what they want to be, and for all the could this be the I even bought in on it. Could this finally be the year Derrick Henry slows down a little bit? I thought Derrick Henry was probably the best part of that Titans offense again in week 1. He looked pretty good again. So, him and, you got Tyjae Spears out of the backfield catching some passes. I like that mix to it as well. I don't trust Tannehill after what I saw in week 1. And, maybe he turns it around. He's had better games, obviously, throughout his career. But I just don't think Tannehill's going to matter that much in this game. I think Tennessee's going to beat the crap out of them. And I think this Tennessee defensive line can also dominate the Chargers offensive line.
I think it'll happen. I think they'll limit possessions, and so an upset could happen. I still think the Chargers deserve to be favored in this game because of how poor the passing attack looked for Tennessee week 1. DeAndre Hopkins was basically just getting targets left and right by Tannehill. It seemed like every pass he was trying to get the Hopkins, and maybe that hurt him. There is always that argument of like, and to some degree, like there is a negative there, right? When you get the star, obviously having a star receiver is good to help you win football games, but there also is that negative of sometimes when you don't know what to do, you just throw it to him instead of throwing it to the more open player. Like that is an aspect of it as well. And maybe that's just a week 1 thing and maybe he'll figure it out, but that wasn't the only issue. I mean, Tannehill was missing open guys and guys weren't getting open a ton as well. Now, again, is Brandon Staley going to be stupid again and put like JC Jackson one-on-one on Hopkins like he tried to do with Tyreek Hill? Probably. I'm not going to bet against that. So that's the concern is, I don't know. I feel like with Staley, he started this whole trend of 2 safety deep coverages. But the way he does it is like this quarters coverage where the safeties are a lot further in. They have to play to run. And the issue is I think teams have kind of realized, hey, let's just put our fast guy on the outside and have him run a go route. And the safety can't really get there in time. And like, it's like, I feel like it's almost the thing where it's like, you kind of have to adjust your scheme to what everyone else is doing now. Actually play 2 safety deeps because you're also not stopping to run. What are you doing at this point?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. They obviously did a very good job of it in week 1, but I also don't think Miami prioritizes their running game like at all. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think they care. So
Right.
I just don't think it mattered that much. And I think when a team is going to prioritize their running game, I just don't think they're going to have success in that book. So, maybe this is a new leaf for them, but I just don't see it. And I mean, they're going to need Herbert to play. I mean, they're going to need to throw the ball, I think, a lot more than they did in week one, because I thought they had a pretty nice mixed run pass, and they ran the ball a lot, honestly, against that Miami defense. And I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot in this game, and I think Titans secondary is pretty good too. So I just think it's a tough. I think it's a tough ask to go into Tennessee and win this game with your style.
I get it. I still think that I would say still the best part of either of these teams is the Chargers passing attack. I'd say that's better than anything the Titans can offer.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes. Should be an interesting one. Let's move on. I'm going to give you a game. I'm giving you the thumbnail game. Ravens Bengals. Where are you going?
All right, Ravens Bengals. This is next on my list. This was a good call by you. Oh my gosh, I kept going back and forth on this one. I'm going to stick to my guns and take Cincinnati here. I'm not overreacting to week one. I think it gets better quicker than we think. I think this is still a good passing game, despite what week one said. And I just think the Ravens, I don't know. Like, I think that their injuries are starting to pile up, and it's a bit of a problem. So,
Yeah.
this is a team we were both very excited about. So I got the Bengals winning this one. I like their passing attack to have a big bounce back week.
Yeah, I'm going to write off last week as just kind of a fluke. I don't think that's going to consistently happen. I'm with you. But there still are some. I still don't think it's crazy. I think the Ravens can win this football game. For one thing,
Yeah,
it was just 2 games ago for Baltimore that they had the Bengals on the ropes and nearly had them beat without Lamar Jackson. I didn't think Lamar had a great day in week one. But again, it's just like, how much do you take into week one versus the bigger sample size? I'm assuming that Lamar, if both teams play at their best, I mean, it should be a great game because these teams always seemingly play really close games. Although I should say that's actually not true. The Bengals have kind of trounced the Ravens a few times in recent memory. The Ravens love to play this man coverage, and we've seen these good receivers for Cincinnati kind of dominate. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see that happen again.
Yeah, and especially when it's not, Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters out there,
Right.
this is a whole different secondary than we're used to seeing for Baltimore. So I think that's a bit of a problem. And I know Cleveland did have some success running the ball in Cincinnati last week, which was pretty surprising. I mean, Nick Chubb is good and that offensive line's good. So you obviously expect them to run the ball a lot. But Cincinnati usually has a pretty decent run defense too. But I just think without Cleveland's offensive line and without Nick Chubb, I think that's too much to ask. That's going to be putting a lot on Lamar's shoes to try and get that ground game going. So I just think it's a bad matchup, and I think Cincinnati has a lot of the advantages that they need to win this game.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think I would also pick Cincinnati. I was kind of leaning towards Baltimore, but I think you're right. One thing I am concerned about with Cincinnati kind of in the long term, I'm not sure if it'll matter so much this game because the Ravens don't have a ton of pass rushers, but didn't think the offensive line played particularly well week one.
The Bengals?
The Bengals. Didn't think their offensive line played particularly. Again, maybe it's just Cleveland's awesome, but they had a rough week one.
They did. I got no excuse for it. I mean, it is bad. And Orlando Brown, who we talked about this offseason being a key signing, did not look excellent.
And apparently he just always sucks against Myles Garrett. Like, apparently, Myles Garrett is that's like a thing. It's like every time they play, he just dominates against him.
Good scouting by Cincinnati then.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also looking at it like, I feel like I'm talking up Cleveland like they're the best team in football, but this Ravens team also doesn't have Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. I think David Ojabo could also give them some problems, but I don't know if it's going to be that much problem.
Yeah, Odafe Owe had he graded well in week one. You have Clowney there. There's some hey maybe, but no one I'm definitely yes.
No one that's Myles Garrett. I agree.
Right. Yeah, and you can't really blitz Burrow, so that's just what that's just the struggle here. So yeah, I'm with you. I'll pick Cincinnati as well.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Zadarius Smith graded as PFF's 4th best edge rusher in week one. Myles Garrett graded as 5th. So pretty good.
Interesting. Is that pass rush or overall?
Overall, sorry. Pass rush. Garrett it looks like top 5 here, and it looks like Smith is fringe top 10. So
Yeah, that's
both
pretty good.
they're both good. They're both really good. We knew that.
Yeah, that helps. Let's move on. Kyle, give me a game.
This one's pretty tasty. I'm actually interested in this game. I want to learn a little more about these two teams. Let's go Green Bay and Atlanta.
Yeah, next on my list as well. I agree. It's a tasty game. I, I'm very fascinated by this. It's a 1 point Packers line. I am picking Green Bay. I think that Green Bay looked solid. Their defense looked very good. That we'll get into the Bears in a second, but I don't know how much credit I want to give Green Bay because it was Chicago. I don't know how much credit I want to give Atlanta because it was Carolina, but both teams looked like the best possible versions of what we thought they could be in the offseason. So that's just the excitement is that actually what they are? What is Atlanta going to do, with this Bijan Robinson thing with Green Bay, who on paper seems like their defense could be what we thought it was last year. And you were the first person I saw on this of like, hey, don't sleep on the Packers defense this year. So far, so good.
Mhm.
Desmond Ridder, I still want to see more out of the guy. It's just a completely fascinating game with two teams that I really don't know exactly what they are just yet.
Yeah. I think the one concern you have for Green Bay, where I do think their defense played well in week 1. Although if you end up looking at the overall numbers, like Chicago still got like 4 yards per carry on the ground and ran the ball pretty well. But I also don't know how to like factor that because Justin Fields is like the king. Justin Fields is the new Blake Bortles. That's my opinion. He's
Okay.
king of like garbage time scoring. This game was 24-6 when they scored 2 touchdowns, and he just runs for a bunch of yards. And it's like, oh wait, Justin Fields actually wasn't that bad. It's like, okay, they were
Right.
down 24-6 when he started moving the ball, I guess. Anyway, I don't want to drag the guy too much, but I didn't think it was that good of a game. But the numbers look okay. But anyway, so they ran the ball okay. So it's like, is Green Bay's run defense still not fixed? And if it's still not fixed, this is a terrible matchup for them because this interior offensive line for Atlanta makes Tyler Algier look like the best running back in the NFL. Like this interior offensive line for Atlanta is nasty, and they got 2 running backs to add to it. Not to take anything away from Algier, I think he's good. So you add those 2 things together, this could be a rough line of scrimmage battle for Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at now. Running backs had around like 3.5 yards per carry for Chicago in that game. So I actually think it was, so that was pretty good. But it's one game and it's a weird scenario. So how much do you make from it? Yeah, definitely a real test for them. And I also think I was impressed with Atlanta's secondary. Another thing that we thought could be good at the start of this season. Green Bay, we always talk about their lack of receivers. Well, now you're going up against an actual secondary. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need Christian Watson in this game. I haven't seen if he's good to go, but they could definitely use him. I thought Dobbs had some moments. Dobbs, I think it is Dobbs.
Yeah, I say Dobbs.
He had some moments in week 1. I thought they had some nice plays, but they're definitely going to need a better, receiver group for this one. Jesse Bates seems like he's slotting right away. Kind of just fits exactly what Atlanta needed. So maybe that helps clean things up. Maybe this Atlanta secondary is better. Like you said, they played well in week 1, albeit against a rookie quarterback and a receiving core that neither one of us liked. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of matchup plays out. But yeah, I mean, there is a chance that the Falcons could honestly just suck the life out of this game.
Yeah, very, very fascinating one. Let's go from 2 teams that both looked like they, hit their ceiling in week 1 to one team that looked like they smashed through their ceiling and another team that looked like they didn't even belong in the NFL in week 1. Browns, Steelers. Interesting how Cleveland looked so good week 1. Pittsburgh looked so bad week 1, and yet Browns just 2-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh. Where are you going?
Yeah. When's the last time Cleveland's been a favorite at Pittsburgh? I can't imagine it happening too often. Am I buying this hype too much? I'm going to lock up the Cleveland Browns. There is a chance that Deshaun Watson makes me look stupid and turns the ball over a bunch and just gets hit by TJ Watt the entire game. And this is a disaster, but I think this Cleveland defensive line's nasty. I just think it is. I mean, we talked about it. We just talked about their edge rushers are awesome. I think their interior is awesome. I think they basically upgraded every position along this defensive line to an extent, outside of Garrett, who's obviously been there. So you have that group. You have this secondary that looked a lot better in week 1, too. Granted, it was like a monsoon, so I don't know how to judge it, but we all believed in the talent of Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward, and they played a lot better. So maybe they are just better. Not to mention you got Delpit and Thornhill too. I thought made some nice plays. So between that, the line of scrimmage play, Nick Chubb in the backfield, I got the Browns winning this one by a field goal at least.
Yeah, not a bad lock. I don't think so at all. Here's what would scare me about this. Jack Conklin went down with an injury in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
DeJuan Jones stepped in, looked good in pass protection. He still hasn't really been good run blocking wise, but you got TJ Watt coming to town. I guess you're going to TJ Watt's town. That's concerning. If TJ Watt is on DeJuan Jones, who Jones is kind of his whole thing is like he doesn't really have much technique, but he's so big and strong, it doesn't really matter. He kind of loses it at his immediately, but then is able to come back because he is so big and strong. I'm not sure if you can get away with that with TJ Watt. And if you can't, this could be a real concern here for a quarterback that, let's be honest, we have not seen really do anything in a Cleveland uniform.
Yeah. Just run left.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a concern. It's definitely something to watch. But like you said, he did pretty well. He held up better than we thought in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
He was someone that we always kind of viewed as having talent too. So, he fell a little bit in the draft. Maybe this could be a steal opportunity, but I mean, he's going against one of the best edge rushers in football. So that is a bad matchup for almost any offensive tackle. So it'll be tough. I'm sure they're going to try and give him a lot of help if TJ Watt lines up on that side. But I think overall, I mean, it's going to add some effect. It's going to affect it somewhat, but the Cleveland passing game is not the reason why I'm picking them to win too.
Right. I think there's just too many issues with Pittsburgh, right? It's like, Kenny Pickett didn't have a great day. I don't think he's going to continue to be, that, but I thought he had a bad day. I'm still concerned about this receiving core a little bit. I don't feel like they don't get separation enough. I don't love this offensive line. They have now lost Cam Hayward. So that's not good. The secondary, there's issues. There's things I like about this team too, but it's I just feel like I can see it. I can see a scenario where Watson still doesn't have it. The offense isn't able to get going for Cleveland. And they get a couple turnovers. TJ Watt's able to wreak havoc, and Pittsburgh just is smart and runs the ball a lot and is able to win that way. My other thing I have to say about Pittsburgh, though, we're big Mike Tomlin fans. At what point do we have to start criticizing him for the Matt Canada stuff? I mean, we crushed Belichick last year for Patricia. It's clearly this offensive coordinator stuff isn't working.
Yeah, I agree. He was there when Big Ben was there, though, right? I mean, that was kind of his thing. He was Big Ben's guy. Which, I guess you stay loyal to that because he was there for so long. But I mean, I don't know. At what point do you cut bait with that when it's not working with the new guy? Because you got to be able to adjust your offense to new quarterbacks. You got to be able to adjust it to your personnel.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, and it's not that was that great, with Big Ben. He's been there for the past 3 years. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just one of those it's okay. You got to make the moves at a certain point. And I'm not saying that it's all his fault or anything, but clearly, if everyone says that guy should be gone, probably that guy should be gone.
Yeah. It's almost one of those things these long tenure coaches just have these guys that have been around and they just trust them. So they just never let them go when it's past their prime kind of thing. This obviously was, Belichick trusted Judge and Patricia to a fault. It's probably the same boat for Tomlin. I don't know about the relationship quite as well as I know all about Matt Patricia, so I could talk about that all day.
Yeah. Well, let's save that. Let's move on. Why don't we? Kyle, give me a game.
Kansas City at Jacksonville.
Okay. Another game I do have a little bit lower on my list. I have two games ahead of it on my list. I'm picking Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think Kansas City is the better team. Chris Jones is now signed to a contract for seemingly not only 1 year and not that much more money. And also he could be tagged next year. So I don't know what happened there. But, I think that the Chiefs are fine. I think they got a little bit unlucky with how that game went against Detroit. I don't know if Kelsey's back. People are assuming Kelsey's going to be back, but I don't think we've seen that officially, announced yet. So, we'll see if he is back. And if he's not, that's maybe how Jacksonville can win, is if the Chiefs offense still isn't spectacular. It still is Patrick Mahomes, though. I still trust it to do well. And this Chiefs defense, I think with the addition of Chris Jones, even if he's not out there for 50 snaps, if he's only out there for 25 snaps, I think should still be really good. And I think this is a team that I think will pull out the victory. It's can't lock it up. And in fact, if you give me Jaguars plus 3.5, I might take that. But for now, I'm going with Chiefs.
I agree with you. I am betting a little bit on maybe Kelsey's not playing or 100% because it's still kind of up in the air. So that could be a part of it. But I also think like if Kelsey's not able to go too, especially, but even then, like the Jags can cover. They can cover like defensively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tyson Campbell's a star. Like when are he needs to be talked about more at the top.
If he was in Dallas, he would be, top at jersey sales.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be talking about him like he's Trevon Diggs, although Trevon Diggs had a really good week one. So but Tyson Campbell's a stud. And
he's better than Trevon Diggs right now.
Yeah, I would say so. So, I mean, you talk about that group. I think it's an awesome secondary that can kind of match what Kansas City, or they should be able to dominate what Kansas City's putting at their skill position spots right now, especially if Kelsey's not 100%. My issue with the Jags is there's a chance Mahomes going to have like 30 seconds to throw. Because
I don't know, because Josh Allen's really good. Pass rush Josh Allen's really good.
He is.
And what do you? I mean, the Chiefs don't love the chip that much. And like I don't know. Trayvon Walker. The fact that the Jaguars are still like this is crazy to me. Sorry, I'm hijacking your point, but somehow Trayvon Walker had more snaps week one than Josh Allen did. Only 4 more, but still that can't happen. And Kayvon Chason had 22 snaps. What are we in 2023 still having Kayvon Chason be your number 3 edge rusher? What are we doing here?
Trying to get that rotation going.
Sure, I don't disagree, but why is he the only? And you have Yasir Abdullah who got 6 snaps. That was it for the pass rushers week one.
Yeah, looks like what is Trayvon Walker here? Did he end up with a top 25 pass rush grade?
Maybe his pass rush grade looked good. His overall, weirdly, he had a really bad run defense grade. He was 91st overall among 107 eligible edge rushers, but his pass rush grade actually was pretty solid week one. So and again, this is the week, right? I mean, you're going up against, as a hater, Trayvon Diggs versus Juwan Taylor. I mean, this is great for me. Yeah. Also, we have a super chat. The real Josh Allen will cause havoc on the Chiefs tackles. Yeah. Kyle, what's the better Josh Allen?
Right now, it's probably the edge rusher. No,
I think this week it was the edge rusher. I think I would still go quarterback, but they're both good.
It will be interesting to see how they officiate Juwan Taylor this game. Because it was national TV. Everybody watched that game. It was like one of the most watched games of all time. How is that game going to be officiated from the start? I think it's going to be an interesting part of this. I mean, I think Allen can definitely get after them. And I mean, honestly, Trayvon Walker, like you said, I don't think he's the most polished player still, but he just kind of does that thing where he just runs straight into the offensive tackle and he's like, okay, your pocket's gone now. I'm not going to sack you, but you're basically panicking at this point. Now, that being said, that's probably not the best strategy against Mahomes because he's just going to roll out and beat you to the edge. Yeah. But, they have some strategies there, but I am a little concerned about it. But that being said, I just think the big thing is that this Jaguars team can cover. They can throw a little bit. Lawrence has become one of the best tight window throwers in football, which may be a big thing against this Chiefs secondary. So you put all that together, there could be an upset brewing here for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I can absolutely see it for sure. I mean, I guess the other thing too is we do have to talk about, if Chris Jones is playing a decent amount of snaps going up against this offensive line, that could be an issue. Not a lot of great offensive linemen here for the offensive line as advertised, and it wasn't advertised very well for Jacksonville.
Yeah, and Scherf got hurt in that game too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's going to be back, but I mean, even then, like if he's out, that's even a bigger problem because you didn't have a great options before that.
Yeah, no. Should be an awesome game. Very much looking forward to it. So now I'm going to give you a game, and I'm going to do it to you, Kyle. I'm giving you your team. Dolphins, Patriots. The Dolphins always seem to beat the Patriots, or as of late, or even when Brady was there, the Dolphins won way more times than they should. Kyle, are you going full homer and picking your Patriots to win?
I'm not. We haven't beat Miami in so long. Like I can't do it to myself. I can't bring myself to pick this, and this is why it's so annoying to lose this Eagles game that we should have won. Because now we're looking at 0-2 with 2 losses at home. Because this is also just a bad matchup. Like I was very impressed with the way this defense looks speed wise. Like this is the fastest Patriots defense I think I can remember in some time. Jabril Peppers played like a maniac in week 1. Kyle Duggar, I thought, played pretty well. But I just, there's speed and then there's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle speed, which I just think is different. So I don't need, even if it's good, I don't know how much it's going to be able to compete with that. And I don't know. So I think that's a tough ask. Like, I don't know what Christian Gonzalez did to the NFL before even getting drafted, but AJ Brown and then Tyreek Hill back to back is kind of mean for your first 2 starts.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's a little mean. Now that being said, like he got burnt some plays, but I also thought he made some really nice plays. I like his talent. I like him long term, but this is a really tough matchup. Not to mention Trent Brown, Cole Strange, David Andrews, Michael Onyenwu, all questionable. Antonio Mafi and City So were our starting guards last week, both rookies, and graded as 2 of the 4 worst offensive guards in the NFL in week 1. City So also
these grades are City So his grade was 28.8.
Yeah. Yeah. He's also has a concussion, and I don't think there's a backup for him. So I don't know how that's gonna work. So I mean it's rough. I mean, we could be playing 5 backup offensive linemen at this point because Calvin Anderson's our only healthy offensive lineman, and he was supposed to be our swing tackle, and Riley Reef is on IR. So it could be legitimately 5 backup offensive linemen. Like that's, and I don't even think like I like Christian Wilkins. I think he's a fun player. I like Jalen Phillips a lot. I like Bradley Chubb. I don't even think this is like that dominative of an edge rushing group. Like they didn't look that good until the very last possession against Los Angeles, but they're going to tear up the JV team that New England's offensive line's trotting out.
Well, especially because the way that New England probably has to win this game is by running the ball a lot, right? Like that seems to be the strategy is let's run the ball from Andre Stevenson a bunch, have him be, which that's kind of what, he had 58 snaps week 1. Elliott had 28. I expect a similar ratio this one. Have him be sort of the bell cow back in this one. Try to see if you can win the game that way. Limit possessions. But like if you can't if you can't block, like are we really going to have hey, Mac Jones, time to put your Superman cape on. You're going to have to win us this game. I thought he played well week 1, but it's just like I don't know if I trust that, especially with this receiving core that I didn't think was particularly great week 1.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, like I don't like it's they couldn't run the ball in week 1. They couldn't. They tried to run it up the middle a lot. They tried to establish that run game because of those offensive line injuries. And it was a disaster. That being said, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter might be better asleep than Raekwon Davis. I mean, and that's not even a disrespect to Raekwon Davis. I mean, those guys are really good, and he's okay. But so that's tough to begin with. But basically, their strategy turned into let's throw the ball in a second and a half, no matter what, and it worked. That was the best part of their offense was being able to do that quick passing game, and I think they might be able to kind of confuse this Miami secondary because they did it so much with Philadelphia in week 1. They really got after that secondary, which was surprising outside of a couple really good Darius Slay plays. And I think they might be able to go at this Miami secondary, but I just don't think it's enough to, they're not scoring with this Miami team is the problem. Even if this offense plays well, I just don't think they're doing that.
Yeah. Hey, you got next week you got the Jets.
Yeah, that's a chance. Good defense again, though.
But at least you're going to play Zach Wilson.
That is true. Our defense should thrive there. I will say that. Patriots, they have a habit, especially at home, of making these games a lot closer than it looks like they should. I just think with the injuries piling up on that line, I thought it was a good Mac Jones game. I thought it was a good game for Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry. Not much from the other guys, but they're getting better. Demario Douglas showed some flashes, so there's some stuff there. I just don't think it's enough.
Hey, one thing I'll say before we move on: if any defense can slow down Tyreek Hill and Tua and Jalen Waddle, got some fast guys here. You got a great coach. We'll see what they can do.
He's going to have like Jabril Peppers 50 yards downfield.
yeah, I think so. Let's move on. Kyle, give me a game.
All right. You threw that one at me. I will, I'm going to hang on to that game because I think you're going to lock it. Let's do Seattle, Detroit. Are you fading Seattle?
Seattle, this is a bit of a surprising line. Seattle had a really rough week 1. I don't know what to make of it. It was weird where it's like, okay, I assumed that Gino just had a terrible day, and I'm not saying he was terrible, but I'm not saying he didn't have mistakes, but he wasn't terrible. He was kind of just okay in that one. There's guys weren't getting open. It was a much bigger issue with Seattle. It's the worst case scenario. You wanted just a bad Gino day. That didn't happen. It was a lot worse than that. On top of it, Detroit's defense looked kind of as good as you would like to see it look in week 1. So, Seattle, I think I'm picking Detroit. I'm not locking this one up, but I don't know if I like Detroit minus 5.5 just because it was just one game and it feels like a bit of a, this feels like an over, what am I trying to say here? This feels like an overreaction to week 1, this line.
I would agree with that. I think it's a bit of an overreaction, but I do think there is a chance that Detroit kind of blows them out too. Speaking of offensive line injuries, we're now down potentially 2 offensive tackles for Seattle. Both of their offensive tackles are potentially out for this game. I think some of his stuff was a little overblown, but Aiden Hutchinson did look very good in week 1. So I think he's going to be able to get after this a little bit. So Seattle's got to find a way to run the ball, establish that ground, because I don't know if they're going to be able to trade blows with this Detroit team right now with their injuries. So that'll be interesting. I think the one thing I'm interested in especially is this Seattle secondary. Now, Witherspoon, I don't think, did he play week 1? I didn't remember him out there that much.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe Witherspoon plays and that changes it a little bit, but if this secondary is torched again, how much do we put the panic meter on Seattle's defense being just horrible?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the thing about it is this defensive line is not good. I mean, this is a massive mismatch on the trenches on both sides for Detroit. I mean, their defensive line is significantly better than the Seahawks' injured offensive line. And again, it's one of those why throw a bag of money at Draymond Jones? What was that accomplishing? I feel like teams do this every year where there's 3 or 4 teams that just throw a bag of money on an okay defensive lineman that doesn't help anything. If you're gonna try to be good in that area, you do have to either, I feel like get Band-Aids. What's that?
I said get good players.
Well, yeah, basically that. That would probably be helpful. I don't think that they're going to get pressure on this one. I think they're going to give up a ton of pressure. The one thing you think about is I just think it's there still is the potential that this Lions secondary isn't as good as we thought it was and just looked good due to the Chiefs not really having receivers week 1. That is still the potential of, can they get guys open consistently? That's kind of what you hope for, which didn't happen against the Rams. So I don't know why it would happen here, but football's weird and, things don't always go as planned. Maybe, the Rams just knew what the Seahawks were going to try to do week 1 and had a good game plan. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for that kind of stuff. Maybe, the other thing I heard was Sean McVay owns Pete Carroll, so maybe that's part of it. But this also just looks like a tough matchup for them based on what we know about these two teams. So I don't know. It'd be weird to say Seattle's facing 2-0, but it seems like there's a real shot at that. So these receivers got to find, like you said, they got to find a way to get open, and get some separation.
Yeah, because it still is going to be like Cam Sutton versus DK Metcalf one-on-one on the outside. Like that's I like Cam Sutton, but like that still is a mismatch. That still is something because the DK is really good. Like that's kind of what you have to do. Also, I am worried for CJ Gardner Johnson's health if he gets too into DK Metcalf's face if this doesn't go well for the Seahawks.
That guy, I think he's a top 5 all time. I want to pick a fight with somebody.
Yeah. He's the best. He's one of the best instigators in the league right now. He might be the best. He's the best, right?
Yeah. That guy is just like, that guy definitely needs to get beat up, but at the same time, I love it. So keep it going. Keep that energy. I don't know. It's just a wild personality. He's always ready to scrap.
Yeah. Also, yeah, someone brought up 41-year-old Jason Peters. What a legend, Jason Peters. Just every year taking some contract somewhere. And he's still like an effective, like he's still like, I don't know, a solid like depth tackle.
Yeah. Man just loves football, I guess.
Guys
gotta have like no knees by like 50. Poor guy.
Yeah. Hopefully it works out okay. Let's move on. Why don't we? I'm gonna give you a game. I'll give you Saints Panthers.
Yeah. This was my other lock candidate, and I kind of regret not doing it. But I'll just keep it moving. Saints. JC Horn's out for the Panthers, and maybe spending a lot of time on burner Twitter. Not confirmed. But JC Horn's out, so I think that hurts this Panthers secondary. We saw them struggle to throw the ball in week 1, and I think this is a better secondary still in week 2. And I think this Saints team's good. I just think that they're good. I think we may have overlooked this a little bit. I mean, I think this is a solid football team, even without Alvin Kamara. Jamal Williams did a nice job good enough job, I guess, in week 1. It wasn't that good actually, but I think that they're going to be able to do enough, and I like this receiving core. As long as it stays healthy, I like Olave, Thomas, and Shaheed. I think they should be able to go after this Panthers defense.
Yeah, we probably didn't give them enough credit for how they played. At least I didn't give enough credit on the Sunday show for how well they played. When I went back and watched tape, I was definitely more impressed. I thought Carr looked better than maybe I gave him credit for. Still had those dumb mistakes that he has to cut down on, but like as a whole, I thought he had a pretty high batting average in that game. It's weird with this division. I think the NFC South, all 4 teams were kind of like, well, here's how it could work out well. Here's like the upside. I feel like the Saints, Falcons, and Buccaneers all like played to their upside week 1, and the Panthers just like looked like a mess.
Yeah. See, the Panthers look like they might be heading for a number 1 pick, honestly.
So it's possible.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But at the same time, I mean, this Saints team, I thought at times moved the ball pretty well. They just didn't score, or they got field goals. There's a lot of field goal drives. They get the touchdown off the interception. So that was a short drive touchdown even. So, they had some pretty decent drives that just didn't really result in points. The Tennessee game was just so weird. I don't really know what to take away from it. So I think this team has the potential to be pretty good. I think this secondary is good. I still think this defense is really good and it's going to get after it. And Carr, for some mistakes, I agree. And, he still can't hang on to the ball when he's pressured. Carr is better than what we saw at quarterback last year.
He did throw an interception directly to a defender, but
right.
Yeah. But other than that, I agree. And kind of one thing about the Saints that I still want to see get tested is like their cornerback depth. I still feel like I'm concerned about that for them, but like I don't think Carolina has the tools to be able to attack that. So I don't know. Might be a rough year for Bryce Young.
Yeah, but this is what we said though, right? Like we all saw this coming. Like we have been proven time and time again that receivers help a young quarterback more than anything else. And they don't have it. They just don't. His leading receivers were Hayden Hurst and Miles Sanders last week.
Yeah. Also, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't see it with Terrace Marshall. Maybe Jonathan Mango gets better, but I don't know. And then everything else is just everything else. It's Laviska Shenault, Adam Thielen, Giovanni Ricci. I don't know. So I got nothing for you.
We have a super chat. Love your channel, man. First time seeing your face. Well, appreciate that. Yeah, for the the one thing I was going to say, the one I think thing you can look at if you're a Panthers fan and say, hey, this might be the key to success. Trevor Penning did not have a great day. Got Brian Burns, who's can go against him. That could work out well. Also, Cesar Ruiz, after getting the big paycheck right off the bat, PFF grade of 32.2. So off to a good start.
You're a big fan.
It's just that's one of the things I tweeted out, like, this is a weird overpay, and then people are like, actually no, he's good. Like, people are convinced every player in the NFL, there's someone that thinks every player in the NFL is good. Like, I don't know what people view other people as.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It was a questionable contract. So
yeah. Let's move on. Kyle, give me a game.
Are you gonna lock up your team here, Chicago at Tampa?
Of course. I cannot. How many times this year am I going to get a chance to lock up the Buccaneers? Here's probably the only time I get a chance to do it. How could I not, Kyle?
It's a fair point. The Bears stink.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin and Mike Evans should have plenty of time to get open in this one. You know, they should be open a lot. This is a bad secondary. This is still an atrocious secondary. Nothing's been fixed on this defense. This Bears team's bad. I think the scoreline flattered the Bears more than probably it should have. Like, I just think that they competed for a little bit in that game, but the Packers basically outplayed them. So, yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Tampa's way better. I think they're going to dominate them defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Justin Fields' first year, the Buccaneers played the Bears, and they just, like, destroyed Fields. Like, he had, like, one of his worst days. Again, Fields had a rough rookie year, but that was, like, one of his worst games of the year, to the point where, like, people were saying they should just take him out just because, like, to save himself from how bad it was. And it wasn't all his fault, obviously. It was just, it was a tough situation. Bowles obviously confuses quarterbacks a lot, puts quarterbacks in tough spots. It's a tough situation for Fields. I think he could have a really rough day. Again, Fields is awesome. And he isn't awesome. Fields has awesome plays, and Fields can make stuff happen. And I'm not willing to fully write the eulogy on Chicago just yet. I do think that game kind of got away from them in a way, but, like, I don't know. This feels like there's a better chance of this going completely off the rails for Chicago than for this going well for Chicago.
They have to find a way to throw the ball downfield. If you keep this game within 10 yards, or basically throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage half of your throws, or what did they throw? How many times did they throw the ball last game? Let me pull up the Bears or the Bears? The Bears.
I don't know.
I'm going to pull it up real quick because they have
37 times.
Everyone wait for 37. Okay, but yeah, I mean, like, 14 of that was at or behind the line of scrimmage. So, like, if you're going to have nearly a third of your throws at or behind the line of scrimmage, if you're not going to throw the ball downfield at all, Todd Bowles is just going to, like, lick his lips and be really excited. This is feasting time for him. He is ready to go after this. So he's going to send everything at this guy. He's going to keep him in that pocket. He's going to say, you're not beating me with your legs. And I don't think he's going to.
And it's like, say what you want about Devin White, who actually had a good week one. This is what you love about Devin White, is he can run with a Justin Fields, and actually, like, this is kind of where he's been used effectively for Bowles, and I certainly think this will happen as well. And Kyle, I just have to say, like, just to be clear, I'm not hyping up my team. That game, week one, I watched the all 22 footage, was one of the worst games I've ever covered in, like, the 4 years I've been doing this YouTube channel for Chicago. That offense was unbelievably bad. There was a play, I'm making a video on it. It'll be out before too long. There was a play where, how, like, you'll have these bootlegs where you fake a play action, you leave the edge rusher unblocked, and you roll out to the other side of the field. There was a play where Justin Fields did that, and it wasn't they didn't just leave the edge rusher, they also left the defensive tackle unblocked, and the defensive tackle just ran right and forward and got a sack on Justin Fields. I don't know what was happening in Chicago. There were plays I had no idea what they were even trying to do, where some guys were pass blocking, some guys were run blocking. It was just a complete mess.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good to go play Todd Bowles. That's for sure. because he's going to pick that apart. And, like, even if, like, I know Baker had a good week 1, but, like, even if Baker's just, like, average and Godwin and Evans get open, if they score 21 points, I feel like they're going to win this game by 3 points. Like,
I don't think it's out of the question that they score 0 and the offense scores 0 and they still win this game, just given how bad it looked for Chicago in week 1. And who knows, maybe Chicago will bounce back, look like they looked last year. Who knows what's going to happen. Here's my biggest concern, Kyle.
Yeah.
There was a report that came out that apparently in the second half, the Buccaneers figured out the Vikings play calls defensively. That might be part of why the offense looked a lot better.
That could play a part. I mean, I'm still not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even high on this Tampa offense. Like, I don't think they're going to light this game up. But like, I think, there's a chance that Evans and Godwin make like 3 big plays in this game, just because they're better than everybody else on this team on the field, and then that's enough to win this game.
Yeah, yeah. So. I agree, and I don't even think that. I mean, I don't know. The Bears have a terrible defense. It's just not good.
Yeah, it's bad. They're bad all around.
All right. Well, let's see. Cut to the Buccaneers losing 30-10 next week. That seems to be how these things go. Kyle, my turn to give you a game. I'm going to give you. This is a weird line, kind of a hilarious line. The Giants lose 40-0 week 1, still 5.5 point favorites to the Cardinals. Where are you going?
Yeah, the Cardinals aren't going to be ever within like 5 points this season. I am going to pick the Giants. I'm going to pick the Giants.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
I will say the good thing about the Giants, what's good about them is they are playing the Arizona Cardinals. That's what that's the best part about the Giants right now.
That's where I feel pretty good about them. I will say, we just saw this offensive line get eaten alive. So did you see the funniest PFF grade of week 1?
What was that?
It goes to Mark Glowinski. His offensive line grade for week 1 was 1.
I just saw it.
1 out of 100.
1 is hilarious. Is way funnier than 0.
Yeah. No. And he wasn't even the worst offensive guard in the league somehow in week 1. I don't understand how that works. So that's bad. So yes, I will say, we talked about that Arizona defensive line looking pretty good in week 1. Now, is it Washington's offensive line being bad, or is it Arizona's defensive line being good? I mean, if you look at those guys though, like, what's the guy's name? I'm trying to find his name now.
For Arizona or for
Arizona? Yeah, they had a couple guys. Dennis Gardeck looked pretty good rushing the passer. They had Zaven Collins got after it a little bit. They had a few guys out there that could make some plays. Yeah, Cameron Thomas. So there you go. So yeah, I mean, they had a few guys out there that can make some plays. And if the New York offensive line decides not to show up again, they're gonna make some plays again. But there's still a talent gap. So I'm picking the Giants.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I'm with you. I think that, I think the Cardinals. It's one of those things like, do the Giants really deserve to be favored by 5.5 points against any team after that performance? Like, yeah, probably. Like, I don't know. Arizona did cover last week. I don't know. Is there potential for them to kind of, if the Giants lose this game, what do we do? I mean, this is the ultimate like funny scenario. The Giants losing this one.
Yeah. If they lose, it's, maybe Dayball is on the hot seat. No, I'm just kidding. But that, obviously that would mean the offense has to play bad enough to lose to Arizona. And I don't even hate Dobbs. I mean, he seems to have a tendency to fumble at the worst time of games. But I don't hate Dobbs. He seems fine for a backup, but he's a starting quarterback right now. So that's the problem. So he seems fine for a backup. So yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing. But yeah, I mean, if the Giants lose this game, I mean, the panic meter is at an all-time high.
Yeah, it's at 40 million at this point.
40 million, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, do you have any more thoughts?
We got to stop making fun of Daniel Jones. That's mean.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't think it was I'll just slightly defend Daniel Jones. I did not think that game was all on him. That got off the rails quickly. And like, I'll say this too for the Giants. Yeah, their offense tends to operate as we're going to run the ball a lot. We're playing off of the run. That's how they do things. When you go down 16-0, they kind of had to abandon the run, which was the wrong strategy. Like, the Giants abandoning the run is them basically just taking a knee every play. Like, they're not going to win just being a pass, a heavy offense. They should stop doing it. But like, it did kind of force them to throw the ball a lot more than they wanted to, and kind of got them in hot water that way.
Yeah, I will say, like, that first drive, they moved the ball. Like, they got down the field pretty quickly. And I think if they're able to play in front of the sticks, that's how they kind of win. But yeah, like you said, the scoreboard got out of hand quickly, and that's how it got ugly. And I don't see that happening with Arizona.
Yeah, Joe in the chat. Honestly, the Giants are going to run the ball and win the game ugly. They can't win any other way until they fix the O-line. I mean, good God. I agree. I think that's probably true. Also, we have the Danny Nichols and then also Penny Jones. So people not thrilled with Daniel Jones' performance.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not, people are not too hyped up on that.
It wasn't Mark Lewinsky though.
That's true. At least your PFF passing grade was over 1. Good work there, Kyle. Where are you going next?
That's embarrassing. The losing team in week 1's favored by 8.5. The winning team is the underdog by 8.5. I think is the number. Las Vegas at Buffalo.
Yeah, kind of a weird one of those weird ones, but like I also kind of get it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I know the Bills had a rough week. I'm still picking Buffalo to win, of course. I did think Denver was going to win last week, so we'll see. But like I said, there wasn't a lot of possessions in that game, so I think people maybe have a higher perception of the Raiders' defense than is actually fair. I still don't think it's a very good defense. What I think is going to happen is the Bills are just going to have a complete get-right game. I think they're going to give up some points because I do think the Raiders' offense is good, but I think the Bills will score a bunch of points and look good in this one.
Completely agree. I mean, this is probably a game where we look back on it, it's like 30-3, and we're like, oh wait, we worried about the Bills for no reason. Yeah, I mean, nobody on the Raiders actually particularly graded out well coverage-wise. So, I mean, Nate Hobbs, I think. I'm trying to find him here. He probably had the best day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's, he's obviously good, but he's not going up against Stephon Diggs out there. So
right.
Yeah, I think Buffalo should have some success. Obviously, Josh Allen has to take care of the football. The Raiders at least showed a little bit in their offense, so maybe there's some optimism there that they can get after this Buffalo defense. But even then, I don't know if it's enough to keep up with Buffalo in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders have to hope that Josh Allen is week 1 Josh Allen still.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to the other ways that this could go well, like I said, I think their offense could potentially put up some points in this one. I also, I think maybe could this be a good Max Crosby game? I think Deion Dawkins is good, but like, do you put Max Crosby on Spencer Brown and try to get pressure that way? That could be a way to hopefully, make good things happen.
Yeah, I mean, they got some options like this. I think the Raiders showed at least they can compete. So there are some options, and I don't think, we've kind of touched on this. This Bill roster isn't impenetrable. They have some issues. I don't love this offensive line. I don't love the secondary playmakers outside of Diggs, which we saw again in week 1. Those other guys couldn't really do much. I think, Matt Milano obviously had a big play in that game, and we saw some good stuff from this secondary, which struggled last year, but it's not a group that's like an awesome top to bottom roster. This isn't an insurmountable game for the Raiders. I just think the Bills should win this one.
Yeah, no. I'm totally with you. Do you have any final thoughts on this game?
No, I think we're good.
All right, I'm going to give you the battle for the NFC West. 2 1-0 teams riding high off of their victory, the Niners and the Rams. Will the Rams shock the world and win yet another football game, or are you expecting the Niners to do what they do and roll over the Rams?
I'm expecting the Niners to do what they do. This is another one of those ownership things where McVay owns Pete Carroll, but Kyle Shanahan owns McVay. So
real
I
rock, paper, scissors thing. Well,
yeah,
exactly. Really, because I don't know if Pete Carroll owns Shanahan, but anyway, go ahead.
So I like this matchup here. The line's been slowly dropping too. Like it started at -8.5, and now it's -7.5. As soon as it hits 7, I'm probably betting San Francisco. They're gonna win.
Just saying that. What about Stafford? Looked great last week. I tweeted this out. I believe it. I think Stafford was probably the best quarterback in week 1.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
No, not week 1. I would say Tua was the best quarterback in week 1.
I don't know.
Stafford was probably second.
Tua threw an interception. Tua missed some throws. Stafford didn't do that.
Sure, but Tua had like 450 yards.
Oh, don't do that. Come on, Kyle. We don't do passing yards as a way to say who was better. Tua was great. I'm just saying I think that Stafford was a little bit better.
He had a very good week 1. He was awesome. He was great. He was probably the second best quarterback of week 1.
How dare you?
It's going to be I think it's a little bit of a tougher matchup. We talked maybe the San Francisco defense secondary isn't as awesome, but it doesn't really matter. Like I think this Rams offensive line is not going to do well against this San Francisco defensive line. And I think that's where San Francisco is going to make up the difference. I'm not ready to buy all in on, I liked him in the draft. I liked Atwell. But at the same time, I'm not ready to buy those guys being number 1 and number 2 options every week this season.
What? You're not?
No, I don't think I'm ready for that. So I like the 49ers to kind of, boa constrict this thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree. I think the Rams' offensive line looked good week 1, but I'm going to guess it's probably more about Seattle than about the Rams' offensive line. We'll see, but yeah, the Rams are they're a complete. I'm picking this team here third to last because I do think that they're an interesting team here. As I could easily see, I don't know. I don't think it's out of the question to say this could actually be like a sneaky good team, just because of a lot of players did step up and play really well. Like they're not big names. They're not. So like I get why we're kind of saying that's probably a fluke. But just because you were a 6th round pick, if you play good football, you play good football. And like who has done a better job at turning kind of unknown players into like good role players than the Rams? Nobody.
Yeah, that's 100% true. But they're going against a game with real stars though. And that's my problem.
Sure. No. 100%, I'm picking the Niners to win this game. I want to be very clear. Yeah. I'm just saying I think I can see some ways that can. I mean, again, they were getting guys open relatively consistently when they weren't. Stafford was hitting them better than any other quarterback would have done in week 1. You have this. Oh, hey, Aaron Donald is still Aaron Donald. That's cool to see. Like, there's some upset potential if this Rams offense can get it going. Because I still do have to say also, like for San Francisco, I still want to see that secondary challenge. Maybe this won't be the game to do it, but I want to see it.
Yeah, 100%. They also kind of, obviously they took their foot off the gas in week 1, so maybe that played a part in it. But at the same time, it wasn't all roses for a 30-7 win, right? They had some struggles, especially in that second half. They kind of, Pittsburgh made some adjustments and got some stops. So maybe there's some opportunity there.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing. I think what happens. What's the final score where you say, you know what, Rams? Okay, I'm starting to buy you being a potential like NFC wildcard team.
Score to keep it. I don't know if it's like 28-21. I'd probably be interested.
Yeah,
I keep it within a touchdown.
Yeah, I think I agree. Which is kind of where the line is. Interestingly enough. So yeah. And fascinating to see where this goes. Let's move on. 2 games left. You give me one of them. We have Vikings, Eagles, and Jets, Cowboys. Where are we going?
Vikings, Eagles.
All right. Crazy that the Jets fall from grace. They're not the last team picked. But Vikings, Eagles. Yeah, I'm picking Philadelphia. It's not a bad pick because I do think that the Vikings, I kind of know what they are, right? Justin Jefferson is awesome. Kirk Cousins isn't. Kirk Cousins is good, but not on primetime. I can't pick Kirk Cousins primetime. I'm picking Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think that's all you need for this one. You're not picking Kirk Cousins primetime. So what's the last one? No.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, I think this Eagles offense should do better against this defense. Like I think they're going to have more success. Although this defense played pretty well in week 1. Not that.
But it's also Tampa Bay. Yeah, I don't know how much you take away from that.
Yeah, I mean they did a little better, but they're going to be challenged a lot more in this game. So it'll be interesting in that regard. Same thing with the Eagles secondary. Like I thought Slayce made some pretty outstanding plays in week 1, but like I wasn't overly impressed with this secondary and this coverage unit as a whole. If you throw in the linebackers too, so maybe if Minnesota, if you get not primetime Kirk Cousins, maybe the Eagles could kind of maybe the Vikings could kind of get after that defense a little bit. So there's some interesting variables to that one, but Eagles should win it.
Yeah, I do think, last year these two teams played, it was just, it was domination. Kirk Cousins looked abysmal. Doesn't mean it'll happen again here. I do think, though, that like for the Vikings to win, what they need to continue to see the sort of slow start from Philadelphia. And then they need to see Justin Jefferson's going to have to kind of almost win this game for them, which, I think Philadelphia has, for the most part, done a pretty good job at taking away these number one options. I think teams kind of realize that, like, if you take away Justin Jefferson, there's other pieces for Minnesota, but not a ton of other pieces. Like Justin Jefferson is kind of their team.
Yeah. Garrett Bradbury's out too. I mean, Philadelphia's interior defensive line could dominate this game too. So
yeah,
there's a lot to it. Have you ever got a Pedro Pascal comparison? Have you ever heard that one?
No, but I'll take it. I think maybe. I feel like when he's like in Game of Thrones, I think I maybe got a comparison then too.
Interesting. Wasn't he like a lot darker in Game of Thrones?
I don't know.
I guess he doesn't have like the salt and pepper going in Game of Thrones. That's fair.
Yeah, I think that was probably, and I think I was also in better shape when he was on Game of Thrones. I think that was probably the more bigger contributing factor.
You're not going at anybody with a spear anymore?
I don't think so.
Those days are behind you.
Yeah, no. Yeah. That's a great. I feel like we should make that like my Twitter handle or something. Like not Pedro Pascal. To make it seem like I get constantly confused and like I'm a different guy.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think who else. I don't know who else you look like.
Yeah, unfortunately, you get Mike McCarthy a lot, which is unfortunate.
Just not Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. Let's move on. One game left. The Jets are playing the Cowboys, which is
speaking of Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, speaking of Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys, which I mean, the hype for the Cowboys could be off the charts here. I am interested though in okay, I think the Jets offense is going to play terrible in this game. On paper, it's one of the worst matchups we've seen in quite some time. With the top offensive line against a great defensive line. Zach Wilson is sort of known for like when there's a bad situation. Like he can do okay if it's a really good situation, but like, if you put him in a bad situation, he looks like a mess. This is going to be tough. I am interested, though, in the Jets should run the ball. I had the Peyton Manning approach to this game. 3 passes from Zach Wilson. Let's run the ball basically every play. You're not going to get any yards. Hope that your defense can make something happen.
Yeah, that's not how football works, though. I guess unless you're Bill Belichick in the wind, but
it gives you a 3% chance to win.
Maybe. Yeah, there's a real chance that this is a disaster. I mean, this is it would be hilarious win probably of the season, where everyone's all of a sudden written off the Jets. The Jets are no longer contenders. Everyone's hyping up this Cowboys defense. This Cowboys team's now a Super Bowl contender because it doesn't matter how good Dak Prescott is. This defense is nasty. The Jets win this one 20-14. That would be the most hilarious game of the season. Yeah, it's not happening is the problem because this defense is too good. Adding Stephon Gilmore to this secondary is just stupid. I mean, they can rush the passer. We all saw what this Jets offensive line was in week 1. It's not good. Even just besides the stupid Rodgers injury play, Dwayne Brown's getting way too much heat for that. There was just straight up plays where Zach Wilson got the ball and had to run backwards because the defensive line was after him.
But Ferris, he also loves to run backwards. He's a big fan of that.
Yeah, but he ran 20 yards backwards. So I mean, the most interesting part of this game is like, how does this Cowboys offense look? Because
Yeah.
the game was over before they even took the field in week 1, and it could be over again before they even take the field. But how does this offense look against a real defense? It's going to get a real test. Can they play? That's going to be the question on this is evaluating the Cowboys in their actual Super Bowl ceiling is how they can handle this defense, I think.
Yeah. It's also just it is a little funny that the Jets, like all their receivers are like Aaron Rodgers' friends. Like it's just I don't know. It's like it's just funny seeing like Zach Wilson throwing to Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. It's like, oh yeah, this isn't how they wanted this to happen.
Yeah, there was a really funny meme going around of Randall Cobb now that he realized he's going to get cut because Rodgers is hurt, and he was Samuel L. Jackson from Django Unchained. I was like, this is edgy and funny. Oh man, that's good. That's a good joke. Anyways, right. So yeah, I mean, I think those guys aren't going to work with Zach Wilson. Garrett Wilson will work. He obviously made a fantastic play to keep him in the game, but I just don't know how they're going to move the ball consistently unless Garrett Wilson makes 4 or 5 amazing plays.
What about Breece Hall?
Yeah, I mean, he's good too. I just don't think it's enough.
Yeah. They're going to have to – it's going to have to be a very similar thing. If they win this game, it's going to make 13-10. I mean, the pathway is – I know we're all assuming Zach Wilson's going to throw like 3 interceptions. Don't turn the ball over. Run the ball a bunch. Score 13 points and hope you only give up 10.
Do what the Giants started to do. Just don't have a block field goal return for a touchdown, then an interception, then another defensive turnover, and all that stuff.
It's also just so funny. It's like the third string is Tim Boyle. Like it's just like it's such an Aaron Rodgers. Like Nathaniel Hackett is the play caller. Like this is so like not how this is supposed to go.
It's all an Aaron Rodgers team except for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, it sucks obviously, but there is some humor in it. Yeah, I think that's all we have to say about that game. Kyle, that's our show.
That is our show. Long one. Obviously, once we start getting some bye weeks, these preview shows will get closer to an hour. But lot to talk about. Lots to talk about after week 1 too.
Yeah, and we also did like 15 minutes on the Monday night game, so that extended things. But yeah, fun show. Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast, and it will be available there. Thank you to everybody for checking this out. Kyle, I believe we got around like 5,000 views for our podcast, week 1. So people are fired up for football.
Yeah, keep it up. People keep viewing. I know you people are viewing, so spread the word. Spread the word on the podcast.
Yeah,
do our advertising for us.
Yes. Can you guys figure out this advertising thing? We don't know what we're doing. Figure out the social media marketing. Like, we're lost there.
Yeah. Whoever wants to have at it, go at it.
Is that the best way to just ask our fans to do the marketing for us?
Hey, promote us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We do appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.